a couple on mental toughness because it's something which people struggle with. You know, no matter who you are, you think you're mentally tough, and then something will happen, and you will realise you're not quite as tough as you thought you were. And for me, I mean, as I say, I've had a bit of a geeky obsession about how humans behave. I mean, from a very young child, I was always questioning, you know, why do we look like this? You know, why do we talk like this? Why do we walk like this? Why do we live in these kind of houses and things like that? You know, why do we do this? What got us here? Yeah? What is this evolution? It's probably one of the oldest questions in the world, isn't it? And I've kind of dedicated most of my life to looking into these things and researching it and finding out what makes us tick. And through that process, it has been a very introspective process. Because, I mean, I've got a great passion for helping people. But it was Osho who said, you know, if you want to heal the world, first you have to heal yourself. Because you can't give what you don't have. So I've been kind of somebody that likes to over-prepare. And I like to think I'm a master of my subject matter. Because that's what we need to be, really, in business, isn't it? We need to be a leader. We need to project our authority and our knowledge and things like that. Which means you've got to live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep it, and all the other bits that kind of associate with that kind of terminology. And there's been times, you know, all through my life, I mean, when I'd say, there's a thing called The Magic of Believing. I don't know, there's a book. I don't know if you've ever read it. The Magic of Believing. It's a very old book. When I say very old, you know, it's like, I think 50s, I think, something like that, maybe earlier. And it was one of the first books I read on this subject when I was about 18. Had anybody heard of Amway? Mm-hmm. Yeah? I did Amway when I was young. It was my first kind of introduction into multi-level marketing. And they had a big self-development area, and that's when I kind of really got into it. I started studying it and looking at it and seeing how it affected us. So, I mean, I started my first business, like I mentioned earlier. I was 21 when I set my first official business up. I had 28 employees, did really well. I mean, within 2 months we were making about 20 grand a month. And I thought I was mentally positive. I did sales training then and everything like that. And I always projected this image of nothing stresses me, nothing gets me down. You know, there's nothing that can upset me. You know, I kind of subscribe to the Buddhism kind of way of life, which is there is no good, there is no bad. Everything just is. Now, that's quite a statement to live up to, isn't it? Because when your mother dies of cancer or something like that, people go, well, that's bad, surely, isn't it? Yeah? But in life, all we have is perspective. The way we view things. And that's what that means. There is no good, and there is no bad. There is only the emotion we attach to it. And that emotion is dependent on our perspective. And I was talking to someone the other day who had their mother go through something very similar. But the conversation was really upbeat and pleasant. Because do you know what? They'd suffered for a long time with it. And it was actually a relief that the suffering was stopped. Death can be a really kind of difficult subject for sometimes people to talk about. For me, I think I seek resolution I'm not a religious person. I don't have any fixed beliefs. I think beliefs need to be malleable. Because if we have a fixed belief and something comes to challenge that belief, and it's so fixed you're not willing to sway on it, well, what happens is that causes friction, that causes tension. And it was Bruce Lee who came up with a great analogy, which was be like water. And he said, well, water's very versatile. If you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. He says water can crash, it can flow, it can be soft, but it can carve a valley into granite, given enough time. So it's incredibly powerful. But if we're not like water, and we're fixed in our ideals, and someone comes to challenge it, that causes us discomfort. There's a thing called cognitive dissonance. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. There's a great image that went around. There was a little fad where people would paint an eye on the cheek and then an extra set of lips on the chin. And I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of it, right? And you look at it and your eyes are going, oh, it just doesn't make sense. Your mind can't rationalise it. You can't figure it out. That's cognitive dissonance. When something is introduced to you which is not what you expect to see or hear or experience, and that conflict between what you're expecting and what you're getting is so severe, you refuse to accept this new information. And this is kind of what I see of politics and religion and things like that. And I've been a person that's stood back from all this and looked at it from a different perspective. And I think the classic example is really, in the main three faiths out there, they all actually recognise they believe in the same God. But when they go fight to each other, they pray to the same God that win the war. And this is the cognitive dissonance. We don't understand that actually these people just want the same thing. Everybody in the world wants the same thing. They want happiness. They want, enough to live on. We want food, we want shelter, we want water. And these are one of the things I'm passionate about. I've set up a community interest company because I believe that food, water and shelter should be a natural right of being on the planet. I don't think somebody should own the water or own the air that we breathe or anything like that. I'm kind of going off on a bit of a tangent. How does this apply to mental toughness? Well, mental toughness for me is allowing yourself not to get embroiled with that conflict, to be able to actually just detach yourself from the situation. A lot of people think mental toughness, the general feedback I get is, when you get through the bad times, it's just about grinning and bearing it, pushing through, just putting the tough things to one side and just managing. And I don't think anybody should ever just have to manage, to muddle through, just to push through the bad times. Because it's only a perspective. Quite often, there was a classic where there was one of the cross-channel swimmers. And part of doing the record is you're not allowed to know how far you've got to go or how far you've been. Yeah? With this particular swimmer, what they were doing, right? So they don't know where they are on their journey. And that's kind of like everybody in here, isn't it? We don't know where we are on a journey. We know kind of where we are right now, but we don't know where we're going. The future's too ambiguous. Anything can happen. Trump got in power. Anything can happen. Fire sale. Yeah? But then again, I see that as a bit like, those fruit machines when you pull the lever and the dials are spinning around and you're like, what's going to happen? I feel like the whole world's in that position at the moment. We're just waiting for the coin to drop and see actually what's going to come of it. But in business, all these things can affect us. So when we're panicking or when we're worrying and when we're thinking, am I going to get the next enough to pay my wages at the end of the month? I've been there. The business that I set up, actually, in the first 9 months, I got it to 40,000 profit a week, £200,000 sales a week. But at 3 months, when I first set it up, my investor let me down. He was 40,000 short because he had a problem himself. And I had 3 months where I was 2 weeks towards the end of the month, my monthly wage bills was like 40,000 pounds because I had 12 employees. And I had £5,000 in the bank. And being mentally tough is being in those situations, remaining objective. Not allowing that panic just to wash over you. And in some cases I did. I actually realised at that point I wasn't quite as mentally tough as I thought I'd been. Which means it just highlights areas that we still need to work on. Because all your feelings, we take ownership of them as if, that's just how I am. Yeah? I'm not a morning person because it's just how I am. Or anything like that. You go into a situation, I'm a bit shy in these public situations, it's just the way I am. And the thing is you weren't born like that. When you're born with two fears. Anybody know what they are? Well, what was?
No.
Fear of dying?
No, it's the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Those are the only two that we're born with. The nature and nurture things answered. Yeah? Every other fear, every other belief is born about through conditioning. Yeah? I mean, this conditioning actually can happen before you're born. There's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And there was a study where they looked at mothers who actually didn't want babies. You know, it was maybe an accidental pregnancy and they wanted to get an abortion. But due to peer pressure or family, pressure and things like that, they didn't go through with it. Now, there's a very interesting thing. If you go to the heartmath.org, I'm not going to have time to get into the science of this, but your heart actually communicates with each other through an electromagnetic field. And in a mother, the baby and the mother's heart is synchronized. So actually, every single emotion the mother has, the baby has. But the baby doesn't feel them the way as you and I do. Basically, it just goes straight into their subconscious. Yeah? And it's a tone. It sets the precedent to what they expect in life and when they come out. And these babies, who were born from mothers who didn't want them, never suckled on the mother. They rejected the mother. They would suck on other mothers and breastfeed, but not on their actual mother. So they felt that rejection before they were born. Was it the baby's feeling? Was it the baby's rejection? No, it was the mother that caused it. It wasn't the baby's feeling. And 95% of all your feelings you have at any moment in time are not your feelings. They're feelings you have inherited through your life experience. So when you get older and you have these certain idiosyncrasies and you have these emotions and certain things which get in the way of certain parts of your life, we accept them because we've been used to them for so long. So for mental toughness for me is being able to be objective and say, do you know what? That's not me. I'm not accepting that as me. Yes, I feel stressed, but I recognise that actually it isn't me and I'm going to do something about it. Now that might be going introspective, doing some meditation, doing some therapies or whatever that might be. Whatever your flavour that you need to go out and seek it. Because half of the battle is, we talk about, mental illness. And it's such a taboo thing these days. You can't talk about mental illness. But the thing is 1 in 3 people, statistically, has a form of mental illness. So, this is us in the room. And I don't mind. Life really is almost like a mental illness. Because we have all these things that affect us and stresses, and that stress it causes havoc to the body. Because stress is the fight or flight. It thinks we're going to die, so it shuts down our internal organs. We don't digest our food correctly. We don't process our weights properly. So we don't filter our blood because we think we're going to be eaten. So what's the point in doing all that if we're going to be food ourselves? And this is why we have so many physical problems. Because the level of stress we have is dumping these chemicals in our bodies, cortisol and adrenaline and things like that, and they cause havoc. And it's your health. But then you start moaning about your health. But the thing is the moaning is also proven to cause stress and actually cause damage to the body as well. 80 to 85% of disease is emotionally related. So mental toughness, being able to detach yourself, being able to be introspective and look at it from a different perspective and think, actually, this part of my life I'm not enjoying, and instead of just accepting it as your lot, actually do something about it. Seek help. Go online. There's all sorts of stuff you can do if you want to do it in private, if you don't want to admit it to somebody. But the thing is we all suffer from something. The first stage in improving your life is realising you're human. You may have had some experiences which haven't given you emotions that you want. And that actually, if you change them, the chances are you will change your whole life quite comprehensively. Sometimes with just little adjustments. If you feel you're mentally tough, I would say to you, challenge it. Look at your life, find out areas that you feel you would like to improve, and actually do something about it in 2017. And that will help you get the best year yet. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.